time, we'll remove the rocker covers and check valve clearances on our Moto Guzzi Breva 1100. And before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Well, I took the Breva out for a ride and found that it was leaking a little bit of oil from the rocker cover. Luckily I know what the cause is. Last time I changed the cover I didn't bother to change the gasket. It had a little tear in it and I used a bit of goo on it and it was fine for a while, but now it's leaking. So I'll take the opportunity today to remove the rocker cover and replace the gasket. To do that we're going to remove the tank, unfortunately, unlike on the V7 where you don't have to. But on the Breva we're going to have to remove the tank. While we're doing that we'll have a look at the valve gear and have a little chat about how you check the valve clearances. Right, so first what we're going to do is remove the seat. It's just here on the side, the key that's just popped off. So now we can see the single bolt of the seat removed that holds the tank on. It's also rotated on two bungs at the front of the tank. Some Allen screws that we'll deal with shortly for the bodywork also. And the side panel here has got to come off. Obviously we're going to get the plumbing off as well, but we'll deal with that when we get to it. So for these side panels, they're located with a plug that bungs into the tank at this end, and there's an Allen screw at this end. And that's all that retains them on both sides. So right, there we go. And there's a little hook there because it just hooks under the tank and the bottom's there. And that's one side off. So the bolt's just a 10mm bolt. I'll just undo that now. That's really what holds the tank on. We've just got to now undo the plumbing and we should be able to remove the tank. A couple of things to undo. We've got the Breva pipes here that powers the pump and your meter and things like that. And underneath, when we lift the tank up a bit, we'll pop it up shortly, is the main connection for the fuel line. So it's just this connector here. We're going to just move these springs back a bit. And these should just pull off. Yeah, that's one really rough. And that's the one off. So this 4-pin plug here, this is the one that comes from the tank. What you're going to do is just to flip that up, the catch, and the thing should then pull apart. There we go. So you can see that's the original connector there. And I found that to be absolute bastards to take off. That one snapped off on me. So what I did is I replaced it. I cut the fuel line and put one of these plugs in. These are what a lot of adventure riders use, and they're just really easy to remove. You just push the plug there, and the thing should just pull out. So you just push the plug and then pull out. Probably need 2 hands for this. So it just pulls out. A little bit of fuel come out, but not a lot. Not the fuel pump's working properly. So you can see that we now have fuel tank basically removed. Got the cable out, and 2 Breva pipes are out, and the fuel line's out. And that's it, we're now free just to pull the tank out of the way. So we now have the fuel tank removed. So those are the bungs that the tank located on. This is the airbox. And the top of the airbox, you've got a number of Allen screws. You undo those, clip this top off, and the air filter's inside. So that's a nice simple job. To get the rocker covers, what we're going to do, so these 2 little Allen keys in the top, which are fine, and then you got a number of different size Allen keys all around the circumference of the head, which we're going to remove. If we want to look at the valve gear, we need to take the plugs out on both sides. We'll take these 2 central screws out first. They just hold a plastic cover. They don't really do anything else. We'll hold the plastic cover that goes over the spark plug, HT lead. That's it, there's your HT lead. There's a plug. So now to work our way around the edge. I'm doing these main rocker cover nuts, all of which I have to say are very loose. I think they're vibrated loose a little bit. Mainly because I'm very nervous. I had a couple of these shear off when I first had the bike, and they're all loose, which probably explains the oil leak actually. So since that time, I've been a little bit cautious. All the screws are now removed, so we should just need to give it a gentle tap. And then we go with broken seal. The rocker cover comes off. The engine has 2 spark plugs. There's an outer spark plug and a long life inner one, which is way at the back down there. It's very hard to get at actually. You don't need to change that very often. It was changed last year, so we won't go anywhere near it. In fact, we shouldn't really need to change any of them at the moment because it's very low mileage, but we'll pop this plug out anyway, just so we can turn the engine over. There we go. It's quite loose again. Nice golden brown electrode, that's pretty much perfect. Now, if you need to adjust the valves, what you've got to do is to get each cylinder, this one's like this one, at top dead centre. Now to do that, what I've done it the old-fashioned way. Basically, I've put the bike into gear, turn the back wheel, you can do that, and then watch for the inlet exhaust to open, because obviously that's the intake stroke. Then when it comes back up, that's a compression stroke. So what I then do is I put something soft into the plug, into the plug hole, and felt for the piston as it reaches the very top. You just feel it plateau at the very top. I know then I'm at top dead centre on the compression stroke. All I need to do now, you can see there is a little bit of movement, so I just need to check those gaps. Now for the intake, it's 0.1 of a mil, which that one's just about perfect. And for the exhaust, it's 0.15 of a mil. And again, it's about perfect, as I would expect, because I only did them last year, so it's only done about 1,000 miles. If you need to adjust them, that's very simple really. You've got a little turn screw there and a lock nut. You undo the lock nut, just a tiny amount, turn the screw until it's just holding the feeler gauge. You shouldn't be gripping it tightly, you should be able to just put it in and move it around nicely, but just feel a bit of resistance. And then tighten the lock nut up, and then check it again, because when you tighten the lock nut up, what tends to happen is it'll tend to stretch the bolt a little bit and you'll get some change. Quite often it'll loosen off. So it's a good idea just to do the lock nut up again, sorry. And then once everything's tightened, just check it again. Now you have to do this with a cold engine. Otherwise, obviously you get an expansion and push rods. The push rods are just there, and you'll get a very inaccurate reading. So I've given all this surface here a nice clean up. What I'm actually going to do is put some high temperature grease on it to help stick the gasket down, help seal it. And we're now going to put on a nice new gasket. It should just drop straight up. There we go. So we're just going to carefully line up the holes. Maybe put a little bit of grease on the top surface. New rocker cover, sorry, the rocker cover back on, and then screw it down and torque it down. Mine recommends that you tighten these nuts down to 7 foot-pounds. I'm going to go for 6 because I'm cautious that way. Also what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, in stages, I'm going to go down to 3 pounds and then tighten down to 6 after that. That click, that means we're up to torque. Right, so cover's back on, got the spark plugs back on, the plug's back in, tightened down nicely. It should all be okay. Really now just a matter of repeating the process for the other side, and buttoning everything back up again.